Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal, and I wanted to talk about something that just continually bugs me, but I just ran across another particularly annoying example of it. I've been updating the entry for Barbara Lee Davis, the first known death at a National Abortion Federation member clinic. And I just can't help but get annoyed at the cavalier attitude that the abortion lobby and their media lapdogs take toward women's abortion deaths. The September 1st, 1977 Decatur Daily Review quotes attorney Frank Sussman, who had defended Dr. Kenneth Edelin in an infanticide case related to a post-viability abortion. Now, when Barbara Lee died, she bled to death, and the face and spine of her fetus were found embedded in a tear in her uterus. Okay? This does not strike me as, well, you know, all surgery has risks. But Sussman said, abortion, like all surgical procedures, involves a risk and a possibility, possibly a risk of death. And this patient in this procedure was advised of that. So seriously, they told Barbara Lee, you know, there might be chunks of your fetus that we send you home with them kind of embedded in a hole in your uterus. And, you know, these things happen, and she went ahead and signed anyway. I think it's more likely that they gave her the kind of, well, you know, all surgery has risks, sign here. I don't think she consented to the possibility of the injury that she actually suffered. You know, and why is, well, all surgery has risks, an adequate excuse for a safe and legal abortion death caused by such an egregious case of malpractice? You know, if her abortion had been illegal, even if it was still performed by the same doctor and she suffered the same complication, I bet that lawyer and the entire abortion rights movement would be screaming bloody murder about how the pro-lifers had forced her to seek substandard care and she never would have died if she'd have been able to access a safe, legal abortion. You know, whether the circumstances are egregious and unacceptable, or, well, you know, all surgery has risks, depends entirely on whether the abortion was legal or not and whether the woman ends up dead. And then the lawyer said, I think we have to just put this in perspective and realize that, for example, well over 1 million abortions were performed last year in the United States, and there were 5 deaths. That's not true. According to the 1976 abortion surveillance summary, there were 10 legal abortion deaths, twice the number Sussman claimed. Now, to be fair to him, the CDC doesn't exactly leap out publishing these results quickly. Their 1976 summary wasn't released until August of 1978, so I don't know where Sussman got that lowball number. And the CDC admittedly missed an abortion death because the 2019 abortion surveillance summary notes 11 legal abortion deaths for 1976. And that's assuming that the CDC knows or even cares about legal abortion deaths. There's abundant evidence that the reporting has been perfunctory at best since Willard Cates and David Grimes left. So, you know, the kicker is the way they're like, yeah, don't worry your pretty little head. That really condescending. I mean, imagine if after an airline crash, the NTSB, the FAA, the airline, Boeing, the Airline Pilots Association were saying, don't let this distract you from how safe air travel is. Don't worry, everything's fine. No, they do an investigation. They figure out what the hell went wrong and how they can prevent it from happening again. In the deposition for the Deanna Bell case, Edward Allred admitted under oath that his huge for-profit chain of abortion clinics never did a preventability study after an abortion death. Now, I have to give some credit to the CDC when Cates and Grimes were there. They would actually do a preventability study. They would take an example of a legal abortion death, how it happened, and what steps could be taken to prevent such deaths in the future. They did that with Barbara Lee. But, you know, the idea that you can just shrug these deaths off and treat them like they're no big deal because the abortion was legal just really burns my biscuits. You know, would it have killed them to say, We want a thoroughgoing investigation into how this happened. The whole reason abortion was legalized was so that women would not die from abortion malpractice. We don't want any needless deaths. And then after it turns out, he sent her home with the parts of her fetus embedded in her uterus, say, well, clearly we need to implement some procedures. No, they don't do that. They just, like I said, don't worry your pretty little head. It's infuriating.